Sourdough bread. It's a beautiful thing, a true marvel of culinary art. Crispy crust, soft inside, and a unique flavor that dances on your taste buds. What makes it so special? The secret lies in the sourdough starter. This simple mixture of flour and water is alive with tiny helpers called wild yeasts and bacteria working their magic. These microorganisms make sourdough rise and give it that distinctive tangy taste we all love. Sourdough is more than just bread, it's a connection to our past. It connects us to baking traditions that are centuries old, passed down through generations. Before commercial yeast, people relied on sourdough to make their bread rise, a method steeped in history. It's a slow and natural process, resulting in bread that is flavorful, easily digestible, and even beneficial for your gut health. Making your own sourdough starter is like adopting a new baking companion, a living entity that needs your care. It needs your care and attention, but the rewards are well worth the effort, yielding delicious bread. With a little patience and these easy steps, you can create a sourdough starter that will fill your kitchen with the irresistible aroma of freshly baked bread for years to come, making every bite a taste of tradition and love. Starting your sourdough journey is easy. You only need a few simple things. First, you'll need flour. Whole grain rye flour is great for starting a starter because it's full of good microbes. You can also use all-purpose flour. Just make sure it's unbleached. Next, grab some water. It doesn't need to be fancy. Filtered water from your tap is just fine. Finally, find a jar or container to house your starter. Glass or food-safe plastic both work well. A wide mouth jar is helpful for mixing. Now you're ready to start. Now let's mix up our starter. This is the beginning of a beautiful journey in sourdough baking. In your jar, combine 50 grams of flour and 50 grams of water. Make sure to use a clean jar to avoid any contamination. Mix it well with a spoon until it forms a smooth paste. This step is crucial to ensure that the flour and water are fully integrated. It should be about the thickness of pancake batter. If it's too thick, add a bit more water. If too thin, add a bit more flour. Cover the jar loosely with a cloth or plastic wrap and leave it at room temperature. This allows the natural yeast in the air to interact with the mixture. Over the next few days, you'll need to feed your starter. This is a daily ritual that helps the starter grow strong. This means adding more flour and water. Consistency is key, so try to feed it at the same time each day. Each day, discard about half of the starter and then add 50 grams of flour and 50 grams of water. Stir it well. This process helps to keep the acidity levels balanced. After a few days, you'll see bubbles start to form. These bubbles are a sign that the natural yeast is active and thriving. This means your starter is coming to life. It's an exciting moment in the sourdough journey. It might take a week or even longer for your starter to be active and bubbly. Every starter is different, so don't worry if it takes a bit more time. Be patient and keep feeding it every day. Your dedication will be rewarded with a robust and lively sourdough starter. Section 4. Troubleshooting your starter. Sometimes sourdough starters can be a little finicky and unpredictable. Don't worry if yours isn't bubbling right away. It can be frustrating, but patience is key. Here are some tips for troubleshooting common problems you might encounter with your starter. If your starter is too runny, add a bit more flour, 1 tablespoon at a time, until it reaches the desired consistency. It should be thick enough to hold its shape, but still pliable. If your starter is too thick, add a bit more water, 1 tablespoon at a time, until it becomes manageable. The consistency should be like a thick pancake batter. If your starter smells bad, remember that a slightly sour smell is normal. However, if it smells really foul, it might be contaminated. In that case, it's best to start over with fresh ingredients to ensure safety. If your starter isn't bubbling, make sure your flour isn't outdated. Fresh flour can make a big difference. Also, try using a different type of flour or water. Sometimes it just takes a little longer for the natural yeast to activate. Remember, every sourdough starter is unique. What works for one might not work for another. It might take some time to get to know yours and figure out what it likes best. Keep experimenting and observing, and soon you'll have a thriving starter that makes delicious bread. Section 5. The joys of baking with sourdough. Congratulations! You've created your very own sourdough starter. Now the real fun begins. With your active starter, you can bake all sorts of delicious treats. From crusty loaves of bread to fluffy pancakes and flavorful pizza crusts, the possibilities are endless. Baking with sourdough is a rewarding experience. It takes time and patience, but the results are well worth the effort. The next time you slice into a warm loaf of sourdough bread, remember the journey you took to get there. You nurtured a living culture, and in turn, it will nourish you. So go ahead, embrace the world of sourdough baking, and enjoy the delicious journey.